Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle Earth here with a video talking about the video that the developers put out, or Jared put out, or whatever you want to call it, the kind of roadmap video on what is coming in the game, what things are going to look like when they're happening. I want to try and break down as much as I can from this. It's a little bit all over the place. I'll talk about more in a second. Just the quality of it is kind of disappointing, but I'm going to give it my best shot to at least give some of my thoughts on what they are giving us, what info they're giving us in this video. Okay, so first things first, probably the most major thing, the overall production quality of this is very low. And I say that as someone who makes videos and tries to have the quality be as good as I can, but I'm doing this in my apartment in a little corner here. So I understand, that it's not always that easy, but you just got to make it work. And if I put a video out on my channel and say the background music is so loud that you can't hear the words that I'm saying, which is what's happening in this video here, again, I would remove that video or adjust it or whatever. And I'm just like independently doing this on YouTube. I'm not a professional development studio. So I feel like the bar should be higher for NetEase here. And it with how kind of dramatic things have been and with the frustration the community has had with this update, many of us just unsure, questionable at best, some leaving the game, whatever. We could talk about that all day. But with all that going on, I would have really loved to have seen some more quality put into this video, some more excitement. One point I saw made in the comments that really resonated was just the excitement doesn't seem to be there in this video, which is really a bummer. And they actually linked a Raid Shadow Legends update video similar to this one, but for Raid Shadow Legends, and just talking about new updates that were going on. And it seemed like a night and day difference in terms of not only just the production quality and how you can hear the speaker in the video and visuals on the screen, but just the excitement too that the person, when they were talking about it, was like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so freaking excited about this thing in our game. I can't wait to tell you. And again, not everyone is going to be able to do that, but for something that's important, I would have really made sure that that was a home run. If my team was in charge of this, I would have made sure that this was really cared for. And it just feels like this is kind of just a lot of, again, fluff, and we're talking about things that people aren't asking about, on top of the production quality not being amazing. So I'm gonna start with that. I'm not gonna talk about it again because that's probably one of the most common things I saw. It was just how people can't hear it, but it was a discouraging first kind of thought when jumping into the actual content of this video. So starting out, one of the first sentences that Jared says is, apart from the changes to the new battle system, and then he starts talking about the graphical changes that are going to be happening in the game, and more of the roadmap is going to be to do with graphical changes. The game engine is being updated or changed or whatever, map adjustments, new marching system, all these things. And it just, again, kind of struck a chord with me because the battle system and the changes to commanders and equipment, I think, are the things that players care the most about. That is the core part of the game, is how we battle and fight each other, and the commanders and equipment that we do that with. So to me, the huge issue that players are having is that core aspect is changing. And again, I would have loved to have seen a roadmap where they just kind of shoot us straight and say, hey, look, we know that there's some concern here. Let's dig into it. Let's talk about why we're doing these things, how we see this being okay, why we see 2.0 being okay and enjoyable. We just want you to give it a chance, blah, 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 whatever. And really just, that would have been very refreshing to just feel like it was like all right, guys, we all know there's an elephant in the room. We know people aren't happy. So let's actually dig into it and talk about it. But instead it felt like the very, like, one of the first sentences was, apart from the changes to this, and then he goes on to keep talking about unique marching system and new map and those things, which are all fine things, but it's kind of like putting sprinkles on top of a like poorly made cake and then calling it like a gourmet cake or whatever, which is a weird analogy. I don't know, but like, hopefully that makes sense to where it's just like, those are cool things, but none of us right now, I feel like, care about that more than the core mechanics changing. After the sort of intro they give in the video, he kind of goes through and breaks down the 5 different phases of 2.0, version 2.0++ being rolled out, which starts now, or already started, and will be going until the end of December. The first phase is the pre-registration phase, which is ongoing. So it says end of September through December. So it's the pre-registration is happening the whole time. Doesn't really make sense to me, because to me, you pre-register for something and then it releases and registration is done or whatever. So So I'm not sure why they're doing it, if they're just doing that to see how many people sign up and do this. I don't really know what the purpose is, because about mid-November, it sounds like, is when we can expect actual changes in the game that we're playing to be taking place, but you can still pre-register for these things. I've already mentioned, I made it my thumbnail actually. I'm very unhappy with the rewards for the pre-registration. I think it's silly. Again, I was a developer on this team, and this was being so poorly received, or there was at least some negativity within the community about what's happening with the core bit of the game. I would really do everything I could to make something like a pre-registration as good as possible, to kind of extend an olive branch and say, hey, look, we know you guys aren't happy, or we know there's concern at the very least. If we were to keep it at least neutral and say, hey, we know there's concern, that's fair. A lot of you've been playing for 2 years. It's, you enjoyed it this way, so it's scary, whatever. We get that. We're asking you to trust us, and we're going to really show that, we want to give you guys something too, and give something meaningful. I don't know what it would be, but it's 800 gems for the max reward of 150,000 people pre-registering to keep playing the game, but playing it at a much different version or whatever. So again, it's just very odd to me, and I don't know how nobody on that development team saw that and went, guys, this looks silly. Like, we are not giving anything away here that's significant at all. This is a huge change. If we want players to trust us, if we want to kind of build that relationship, let's at least give them something that really is meaningful to them. But instead, it's more bizarre to me than anything else I can wrap my head around. But that is the first phase, the pre-registration phase. The next phase is version 2.0 update phase, and it's going to be happening in early November. And it says the update will be centered around the content that's currently being featured in PvE. So as far as I'm understanding, we could expect a early November date in terms of when content of PvE is being added to the real game. So if you're trying to time seasons or do whatever, just bear that in mind, that early November is when that could be happening. In one of their text posts they put out in Discord and other social media platforms, they made a statement about how when the update comes for 2.0, that it's going to be sort of updated for all active and live servers. It didn't sound like it's going to be something that will only happen once you launch into a new campaign, which is how they've done other things that have been major. But they made it sound like when this happens, it's happening across the board. There won't be you can finish your current season. So just putting that out there for those that have maybe thought they could get another regular season in, or are really banking on that. That may not be the case. I hope that's wrong, and I hope maybe they do take longer to get it out, but don't sign up and assume that it's going to be 1.0 the whole way. There is a chance, it looks like to me, that it's going to be early November, and it's going to be kind of rolling to all servers. There isn't a whole lot else they talk about in terms of the second phase, the kind of early November phase of PvE coming to the game. They do talk about how they're going to continue optimizing based on feedback to try and keep balancing the relationship between commander and equipment and ensure a fair gaming experience, or however you want to say it, which is all fine. But at the end of the day, I've heard a lot more negative feedback than I've heard neutral or good, and it's not even close. And I don't feel like any of that's been addressed, or anything has significantly changed where they've said, you know what, hey, we see that, let's say there was one thing. Let's say if we had to pick one thing for a hypothetical, that it was the formations, for example. If we as a community said, everything else will make it work, but just let's not do formations. Or maybe it's certain, the commander skill, whatever it is. To me, when they say they're going to keep optimizing it, it just means we're still doing the system the way we're going to do it, and we're going to try and tweak as much as we can. But I do think there are some parameters that they're sticking within. So I'm not saying stop giving feedback. Keep giving feedback if you want to. But to me, it doesn't sound like they're taking any major feedback to heart and making significant changes to the structure as a whole, or any aspect of the structure. It's just, we're going to kind of optimize within how it's going to be done. That's at least how I understood it. It could be wrong there. So if you read that differently or heard that differently, let me know. But it really does feel like this is a system that's going to happen based in amidst all the negativity. It's still happening that way. But we're going to optimize. I feel like they're using optimization as like a buzzword to be like, we're listening, it's good. But I don't think a whole lot's actually changing that players will be in favor of. Next up in the middle of November is going to be the version 2.0 plus engine revamp test. So again, this is where we get to things that I think are good. I think these are good things for the game. And if it was not on the heels of the fundamental bits of the game changing, I think I'd be very excited, or much more excited. But the game is going to be running on a new engine. There are going to be graphical changes, map changes to the marching system, and all these things they talk about. I won't get too much into it. I'm just trying to give an overview of the whole thing right now. But basically, this mid-November time, they're going to be putting out a test client that you can download and basically experience this new engine and new parts of the game before it actually goes live, which again, I think sounds fantastic, sounds good, but it's a little bit bittersweet to talk about anything positive. Again, right now they could hop in and say, hey, right here in the timeline, Balrog Commander's coming, and many of us would go, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. But when it's on the heels of everything else happening, it's less exciting than I think it could be. So it feels like that, where I think a new engine, less clunky, better optimized performance, all that is fantastic. However, I feel like it's sort of just like these buzzwords being thrown around, which to me don't have as much impact as the core functions changing that we've already talked about. The next phase rolling out will be a PvE 2.0 or a second PvE phase, where they are going to be specifically focusing on the new marching system as well as changes to the map and other bits of new content. That'll be opening for registration, so you can sign up to play in the second PvE after version 2.0 in early November, I believe. So again, don't have an issue with PvE test servers, don't have an issue with allowing us to do that, but when at the end of the day they did that and the feedback was overwhelmingly negative, at least from my experience, it's hard to want to play a second PvE when at the end of the day it feels like if we don't like it, it doesn't really matter. Maybe there'll be slight minor adjustments, but at the end of the day, if there's something we really dislike, I don't think it's going to fundamentally change. But there is a second PvE happening. Again, I'm not trying to sound super negative, I'm just trying to like be realistic about this after having done the first one, and many people were concerned about it, and I was very excited for a first PvE test because I felt like this is great for this game. They're going to let us test things and implement, but it feels like they had a plan and they've provided ways for us to give feedback, but it doesn't feel like major feedback suggestions have been taken to heart on their side. And last but not least, in December, we're going to have the final version 2.0++ release, which is going to contain all these things that have been talked about, that they're posting about. One, they mentioned there's going to be new flying units. Again, cool stuff. A lot of the stuff beyond the core changes I think are very cool and make a lot of sense. But again, I've kind of already expressed probably more than I needed to, that it's hard. It's bittersweet. It's very bittersweet. So we'll have all these things rolling out to us before the end of the year, and really before going into the new year, we'll have what will now be Rise to War and what that will look like as a game. They did say too they're going to continue doing the Beacon of Light Q&A with the developers, and they're going to continue answering questions. And I just, again, not trying to have every point in this video be overly negative, but it's frustrating to hear them say one thing and then see them do something else, and I just feel like it's almost just dishonest. But they don't, if you've read through the Beacons of Light, they don't answer questions that we're actually asking. They look like the most bizarre, weird, cherry-picked questions about things that nobody is asking about. And the actual things that we're wanting to know about, when is this thing happening, why is this thing happening, so on and so forth, those don't get brought up. So I just feel like, again, it like made me laugh a little bit, because it's like we're still doing this and answering questions, and haven't, if you have a question that's not been answered, hold tight, we're getting to it. And again, I don't doubt that once in a while they're going to have stuff in there, but as you've seen from a lot of the videos I put out on the Beacon of Lights, it is just a lot of questions. Like, we're all looking around, asking ourselves who is asking these, because it's not anybody who is very active in the community and wants to know about these major changes. So they're still going to be there though, so maybe they'll start kind of getting more real with it. But yeah, I will say this was interesting. They're talking here at the end about the different like live conversations they've had, kind of the Zoom interviews, the roundtable meetings or whatever, but they put two slides on the screen that I feel like should have maybe been more of the theme of the video, because they're actually in these slides talking through the changes that are happening and why they're happening, which is, I feel like, the conversation that needs to happen. So this slide that just flashes on the screen, and then in like a few seconds it rolls to the next one. It says the change, a new battle system. So that's the change happening. Changes in commander skills and development, changes in equipment system. So there's like, this is the change that's happening. And then the next slide says the benefits of the change: higher commander and equipment utilization rates, a simpler and more understandable skill and equipment system. Players can focus more on commander combinations, introducing commander synergistic gameplay, enriching army combination strategies. So to me, this right here, which probably has 5 seconds in the video that they just slide through, this should have been what the video was about, was to have more of these conversations. Now, again, these might have been slides from one of the Zoom interviews they did, but obviously this isn't stuff released to the public and not things many people see. So I again just thought it was funny because so far we've like tried to kind of talk about, oh, like visuals and the new engine, when I think the conversations we need to have are, you know, why these changes are happening and why they think they are a benefit, because it says the benefits of these changes, and allow players to have those conversations. So those are what they're expressing, at least in just in this little window, what they feel like are the benefits of it. But it to me, that should have been more of a main focus, and it just wasn't, which I thought was very surprising. But I just wanted to kind of put those slides on screen for a second. There's also been a query tool released, which will basically allow you to input data, commanders or gear, and it'll show you what it will be like in the new version. So just kind of an old to new calculator, if you will. I'll link that in the description below. It's been posted already as of my video going out here. But if you are interested in what will my R19 whatever commander look like, it'll show you exactly what that'll be in terms of what tier they'll be, what respect they'll be, how many points they'll have, that kind of stuff. So that will be linked down below if you're interested in kind of learning about what your account will look like very soon. I will say, sort of in closing, because honestly, there's not a whole lot left here, and I think I've covered it all. And maybe there's more ranting here than not. But I was just trying to sort of show what was here, which wasn't a whole lot. They did at the end do a kind of thank you for participating, and they started thanking some of the video makers or for those pioneers, which is what I am. And it just was funny because I was like holding my breath, because they have done videos or posts before where they've listed out other people and left me out because I'm not contracted officially by NetEase, because the contract was going to be very limiting and just not something I was interested in. So I've been left out of a few things, which again is just kind of funny. But I did get a shout out in this video, so at the end of the day, you know, I can't complain that much. But it gave me a chuckle because it was like they like said 3 or 4, and then they said, and all things Middle Earth and others, and I was like, oh, okay, at least we're getting a little bit. But in all seriousness, I did enjoy the conversation I had, and I really enjoyed talking with the person I talked to. I just don't know if what I said or others said really is being taken to heart, because nothing is fundamentally changing from what I have seen thus far. But anywho, I just wanted to post this and kind of have a conversation about the video as a whole, you know, so let me know what you guys think down below. I think a lot of people were not happy with just the overall production quality, but there were some different things in here laid out about, you know, from now until the end of the year, what the game's going to look like and when things are going to happen. So curious what you guys think of it, but that will do it for me in this one. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.